right. Excuse me. Monday mindset. Let's get this rolling. Um, I love this call because I really believe that mindset is it's everything. In fact, I shot an entire episode, I think, on this series all about how mindset is everything. 'Cause it's the way we see the world, it's the way we interact with the world, it's the way we translate what's happening around us, and so it becomes our entire existence, really, our mindset. And so I feel like there's not enough people talking about these kinds of topics. So I love this thing. Yesterday I was thinking about this. One of the other things that I love about this is somebody who has the opportunity to host is it gives me the opportunity to think about like, well, what would I want to talk about? And so yesterday I was thinking about that, and for some reason the word legacy popped into my mind. And I see this as a really interesting word because a lot of people, I feel like when they talk about legacy, they talk about it as if you either have a legacy or you don't have a legacy. And the way that I see it is that's not really the case. Like, we leave a legacy whether you are trying to leave a legacy or not. Just the fact that we're here on this earth leaves a legacy. And it can be a good legacy or a bad legacy. It could be, you could be mean to everybody and leave ripples of negativity. You can be loving to everybody and leave ripples of being loving. The fact of the matter is, we all have a legacy. Our legacy is what we leave behind. And we can do that either intentionally or unintentionally. So, I think when a lot of people talk about, oh, I want to leave a legacy, what they're really talking about is like they want to be, chronicled in the history books and they want to have a statue made after them or, be the best like Michael Jordan, right? The best basketball player, or the best football player, whatever it is. And they look at that and they say, yeah, that's my legacy. And I would even argue that even a Tom Brady or a Michael Jordan, their legacy is not their stats. It's not the trophies, it's not the Super Bowls, it's not all the stuff that maybe they worked so hard for. Their legacy is how they impacted the world. What was their energetic footprint that they left behind? That's what real legacy is. And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter how hard we try. It doesn't matter um, how intentional we are about it. We are going to leave a legacy, period. So, what I thought I would talk about today is less about like, yeah, I wanted to kind of talk about what legacy is, but how do we leave a legacy? But more importantly, how do we leave an intentional legacy? See, because the way I look at it is, it doesn't really matter whether we're the best. It doesn't matter if we're in the history books. It doesn't matter if they make a statue of us. I think when we get down to the base of what it means to leave a legacy, I think what people are really saying, if you could really get to the crux of it, is I want to leave something intentional. I want people to remember me a certain way. And let me just back up really quick. There's one other piece to this. The reality is, most of us, 2 or 3 generations from now, nobody's going to remember us. We're going to be a name on a family tree and like, oh yeah, there was this person, Dan Gomer, and he did these things and whatever. And people are going to go on about their days. They're not going, they don't care. They don't care that, I was the best, you know, middle school science teacher of my day. They don't care. What they care about is, and this is kind of subconscious, is how you impacted their life on a subconscious level. You passed on genes, you passed on energy, right? Because the way that I treat my children is going to impact my grandchildren, is going to impact my great grandchildren, is going to impact my great great grandchildren, not to mention the way that I treat my friends and the people on my team and in my organization and all of the people that I come in contact with. Every time I interact with one of them, I am making a ripple in the world, right? Think butterfly effect. And so every single day I'm writing my legacy. And I have the option to write that with intention, or I have the option to write that unintentionally. And when we write our legacy unintentionally, we lose control over our actual legacy. So if leaving a legacy is important to us, then my belief is we have to become intentional about the way we're showing up, the way we're acting, the way we're treating people. And so that's what I really want to talk about today. How do we leave an intentional legacy? So I think the first thing is, excuse me, we have to be able to define what we want our legacy to look like, right? We have to know our what. What do I want my legacy to look like? So for some people, their legacy might be financial. Okay, cool. Maybe they want to leave millions of dollars for their kids so that their kids and their grandkids and their great grandkids can, live comfortably for their entire life. Great. Maybe somebody's, you know, uh, legacy, they want it to be that they impacted the world in a positive way. So they want their kids to be positive. They want them to be healthy, physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever. Great. So it doesn't really matter what you want your legacy to be, but if we're not clear about what we want it to be, then what happens is we're just running around all willy-nilly through the world, hoping that we leave some kind of legacy that we can be proud of, hoping that when we're sitting on our deathbed, instead of saying, I wish I would have, we're like, hell yeah. Like I did exactly what it is that I wanted to do. I know that I am leaving the ripples behind in this world that I can be proud of. That doesn't happen on accident. It just doesn't. The only way we can be proud of the legacy we're leaving behind is we have to know what we are creating very clearly. So, how do we do that? Well, that can be difficult, and it takes a lot of time and energy and effort and thought and reflection. We have to be intrinsic, we have to go inward, and we have to start asking questions like, what is important to me? And I'm going to come back to that one here in just a minute. What do I value? Um, you know, this seems kind of morbid, but one of the best experiments I have ever done on myself is I was running this group with just guys, and we would meet once a month, and we would just kind of talk about life and stuff, and we'd do little experiments. My favorite one that we did was you have 30 days left to live. And I made everybody print out a calendar of the month, and every single day they had to cross out a day. And I had everybody on a text thread. And I would text them every couple days. 17 days left to live, fellas. 13 days left to live. What are you doing with your life? 10 days left to live. 5 days left to live. You're dying tomorrow. What are you doing? What are you doing if you're dying tomorrow? And it was a very, very powerful experiment because although it might seem morbid, the point is one day you're going to be on your deathbed. And you're going to have that moment of what did I do with my life? Am I proud of what I created? Am I proud of what I'm leaving behind? Because the ripples have already been made. You don't get to make any more ripples. You're leaving. You're done. Are you going to be proud about what you left behind? And so the cool thing about that experiment was it got me to really think about this question of what? What do I really want? What is really important to me? What is really valuable to me? And for me, what came up was, I know it sounds generic, but my family, of course, but also my friends. I want to be a force for good. I want to be somebody, people will not remember my name 100 years from now. They just won't. And I'm cool with that. I want there to be an intangible ripple effect, though, of what I did. I want to impact so many people's lives in a positive way that they go out and do amazing things. And then they leave these amazing ripple effects. And then those people go out and impact people and they leave ripples. And at the end of the day, I get completely lost in the shuffle. I'm gone. Nobody knows who I am. Nobody knows that I even impacted their life. It's completely irrelevant. I'm completely irrelevant. However, I know that I left ripple effects that are making the world a better place, and I have no idea where they're going to go. But with something like that, I can lay my head down and be done and be proud of what I left behind. And so that realization didn't come without going inward and asking the question, what do I really want? How do I want to impact this world? And so that would be my first piece of advice. If you want to become intentional about the legacy that you're going to leave behind, you got to go inward. You got to ask yourself these questions, not once, not twice, daily. I still do stuff where I'm just like, oh man, there it is again, right? Getting pissed off at somebody in traffic, right? And I'm just like, why? Why am I doing that? I don't want to be that person anymore. So these things still happen. So I'm constantly looking at my life and looking at my actions and looking how I'm interacting with people and the energy that I just put out in this situation, in that situation. I'm going, I like that. I don't like that. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to keep double down on this. It is a lifelong process. It's not a once or twice. Like if this is something we want, we have to be vigilant and ask ourselves, what do we really want in this world or want to create in this world? The other question that goes hand in hand with that is why? Why is that important to you? See, because the reality is, if we don't know why we're doing something, we don't act. If I don't have any feeling in my hand and I touch a hot stove, I'm not going to pull my hand off because I don't know why it's valuable for me to pull my hand off. But if I feel that heat, I'm going to pull it off right away. Why? Because it hurts. When we have a reason to move, we move. When we have to go to the bathroom really bad, we don't sit on the couch doom scrolling until we soil ourselves. We don't do that. Why? Because it's more valuable to run to the bathroom and do what you need to do. When we know why we're doing what we're doing, we move, period. If you are looking for motivation, understand why you should be moving, and you will move. If you understand why you want to get healthier, mentally, physically, emotionally, you will get better. If you want to sell more houses, understand why you want to sell more houses, and you will sell more houses. It is that simple. And so, once again, if we want to leave a legacy, we've got to understand what it is we really want and why we really want it. In fact, I built an entire coaching program, a 10-week coaching program that I'll probably be doing it again later this year. And I'll probably open it up to the TAC to come join. It's a free course. It's 10 weeks long, but there's a commitment to it. You have to commit to it. And that's all we focus on. What do you want and why? For 10 weeks. It's very powerful if you stick with it the whole time. All right, I digress. Let's move on to the next bullet point here. So the first one is if we want to leave an intentional legacy, number one, we got to understand what we want and why we want it. Number two, what are your values? And this is one that kind of cracks me up because just like so many things, especially in real estate, it gets so overcomplicated, right? Everybody say hi to Allison. It gets so overcomplicated. Define values. Well, are values things like honesty, or are values more like da da da? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I even found myself as I was planning this. I'm like, well, let's define what value. No, screw that. You know what the easiest way to decide what your values are? Pretend you have to sit in a cubicle for the next 10 years working side by side with one person. You see him every single day, 8 to 10 hours a day. Define that person. Make that ideal cubicle mate in your mind. Those are your values. So when I did this experiment, I did this. The first time I did this was when I was trying to identify my avatar, call it, for the agent that I want to attract to our team. And the things that came up for me are, the normal things, right? Like honest, but I want somebody that's hardworking and motivated. I want somebody that's introspective. I want somebody who asks me questions as much as I ask them questions. I want somebody who is friendly, who wants to make the world a better place, somebody who values human connection and values growth and all of those kinds of things. Those are all values. And so when we talk about leaving a legacy, we have to understand what we value. So this is another, so one experiment that you can do is the 30 days left to live experiment. I would strongly, strongly, strongly urge you to do that. And I would also urge you to do that with a friend or a family member so that you have some accountability and you can bounce ideas off of each other, and talk about it. That makes it even more powerful. The next thing that you can do is do this cubicle experiment. If I had to be next to this person for 10 years, what would I do? Or who would they be? And just write down all those values. The reason that that is so important is because if our lifestyle and our actions are aligned with our values, and we really try every single day to align our actions with our values, what would we have to regret when we're on our deathbed? If we're honest, we're loving, all of these things that we value, why would we regret anything? I don't think we would. And so it becomes really important to not only know what you want and why you want it, but then you have to define what your values are so that you can align your life with those values. Um, and so this takes me to the next one, which is we got to make sure that our actions then align with what we want and with our values. And, just make sure that they're all aligned. Why? Well, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. But if our actions are misaligned with what we truly value, we feel desperation, depression, despair, confusion, lack. Is that the legacy you want to leave behind? So, but on conversely, if our actions align with our values and we know what we want and we're constantly acting in a way that aligns with that, we begin to feel confidence. Like I know, sometimes I know that I'm being an a-hole and I'm doing it extremely intentionally because I'm protecting myself or someone else. That's very different from the cashier at the coffee shop who's rude to me and I'm a total a-hole to them for no reason. That's totally different. But because I know what I want, and if I'm aligned with the person that I want to be and I'm aligned with my values, I can still be an a-hole at the right time because it becomes intentional. And so when we're aligned, it can build confidence. So I can confidently be kind of an a-hole and still be aligned with my values. And when that's done, when that interaction is over, I can be like, I made the right choice and I am okay with that. Boom, I move on. And so now not only does it build confidence, but being aligned with our values, we feel strong. We feel good about our life. We can look back at our legacy and be like, it might not have been perfect, but man, I tried. I tried to be a good person. I tried to impact the world in a positive way. I tried to make ripple effects that lifted people up rather than tearing them down. Two very different feelings. So there's people who will say things like, I want to leave a legacy. And sometimes they might say, I want to leave, a bunch of money. Let's just use that because it's an easy target, right? And then they get a bunch of money and they buy the jet and they buy the boat and they buy all this stuff. And then they're on their deathbed and they're like, okay, that kind of sucked. Because their whole life they were an a-hole and they were not nice to people and they were constantly taking advantage of people. The reality is they have a value system, but sometimes we hide from our values. We think that the money is going to protect us from it. We think that, the prestige or having the statue or getting our names in the encyclopedia, that is somehow going to protect us from acting against our internal values our entire life. It will not. It will not make you feel better. I don't care how many trophies you win. I don't care if you're the best this and the best that. If you are misaligned from your values, you will have a horrible experience of life. And so, obviously, this is something I'm very passionate about. And so when we look at how do we adjust our actions? Well, let me just share a few stories here. For a long time, I didn't understand any of this. Nobody taught me this when I was young. Nobody was talking about this. I credit a lot of it to my wife and also to luck and just being in the right place at the right time, being surrounded by people who kind of nudged me in this direction. But for a long time, I was living out of alignment from my values and I wasn't paying attention to it. So I couldn't understand why I was depressed. I couldn't understand why I wasn't producing what I wanted to produce in my life and in my business. It didn't make any sense. And so ultimately, the feelings that it started to create in me were despair, hate, anger, blame. I was miserable. So miserable, I didn't want to be here anymore. On the flip side of that, one day I realized that I needed to change something. I needed to change my mindset. I needed to change the way that I was operating. And so I started looking at my actions and I realized, wow, if I want to be a positive impact in the world, then I need to start changing my actions. And as soon as I made that commitment, right? And let's go back to the what and the why. I knew I wanted to be positive, right? I knew I didn't want to be depressed anymore. I knew kind of what I wanted. It was vague, but I kind of knew what I wanted. I knew why it was important to me because I didn't want to be depressed anymore. I didn't want to feel like crap anymore. I wanted to feel good. I wanted to heal. I wanted to be healthy. So I knew what I wanted. I knew why I wanted it. And then it was just a consistent self-reflective exercise. I'm 10 years into that process and I've got a long way to go. But over the last 10 years, I have really tried to just look at what is my legacy? What do I want that to look like? Why is that important to me? And then I look at my actions every single day and I go, damn it, I did it again. I'm out of alignment on this piece. How can I fix it? And I do my best to try to adjust. And then the next day I do something and I'm like, man, I handled that really well. Okay, cool. I want to do that more. I'm going to double down on that. And the next day, so excuse me. So just to kind of put a bow on this whole thing and bring it all together so I'm not, beating a dead horse here. We all have a legacy. You've been leaving a legacy for as long as you've been on this earth. The day you were born and your parents look at you and go, oh my God, this beautiful baby, boom, you've already started your legacy right then and there. You're leaving a legacy today, you're leaving a legacy tomorrow. And so at the end of the day, though, we don't have control over tomorrow. We don't have control over yesterday. All we have control over is how we're showing up right now. So if you want to be intentional about the legacy that you are living, I would just encourage you to get clear about what your legacy looks like or what you want your legacy to look like, why that's important to you. Um, I would encourage you to identify your values and then look at your daily actions and ask yourself the simple question: do my actions today align with my values and my what I want to create for myself? And if the answer is yes, good for you. Keep going. Do more of that. Double down on those things. Because it doesn't matter. And here's my last point, and we'll wrap up here. People talk about this idea of like, oh, I don't care what anybody thinks about me. I'm a, you know, I'm, I'll do whatever I want. Like, okay, great. That's cool to a certain extent. Um, as long as we're constantly making these micro adjustments. So I say, I don't care what anybody thinks about me, and I qualify it as long as I am in alignment with the person that I want to be. But if somebody is giving me feedback, even if they're a jerk about it, if they're giving me feedback, I will listen to that feedback and I will analyze it and I will look at it and say, they're either right or they're wrong. And going back to this confidence thing, if I am in alignment with the person that I want to be, I could care less what anybody thinks. I don't care at all. But if I am not in alignment, what are you doing? I can see you, man. um, you're so funny. In case you weren't watching, my wife is crawling behind me. Stay out of frame. Yes, well, I appreciate the effort. Um, back to it. This idea that we shouldn't care what everybody thinks. I think that's nonsense. We should definitely care what other people think because they're giving us feedback. But at the end of the day, we need to just analyze, am I in alignment? And if you are, go. Go, go, go. Be you, be powerful, be unique, be authentic, be genuine. Go, 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 go. As hard as you can, as fast as you can. Don't worry what other people think, as long as you are in alignment. Because if you do that, as flawed as it will be, not maybe, as flawed as it will be, at least you will be leaving a legacy with intention. And so when you're on your deathbed, you can look back and be like, what a wild ride. Yeah, I screwed it up a whole bunch, but I also did some really amazing things and I was in alignment with my life as much as I possibly could. Man, that's where I want to be at the end of my days. So I appreciate you guys being here on Monday morning. And I hope you guys have a great week and hope we gave you a little bit to chew on. And, I would love to hear, by the way, if any of you do these experiments, please let me know how they go. So appreciate you guys. Enjoy the rest of your week.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.